What's going on, TheCoreofU fam? Finally joined by Wifey, who got down here.
Hi, TheCoreofU family.
Happy Juneteenth to the people. You know who you are. We love you guys. As always, we like to say we hope that you're healthy, that you're feeling good, that you're in a good place, and most importantly, that you're at home or wherever you may be right now joining us, that you have peace in your heart. That's most important, that you have peace in your heart.
Absolutely. And with this 155th celebration of Juneteenth, I think we all have a lot to reflect on, a lot to celebrate, a lot to mourn, and a lot to process. And our topic tonight is going to touch on forgiveness.
Yes.
Amongst everything that we're dealing with, forgiveness. And I think that was timely when my hubby said that he wanted to touch on that, because I think we're all going to have to, at some point, deal with that.
No doubt. And we're not, this conversation today, the power of forgiveness. And as I titled it on the video, you can choose to be free or remain in some type of remain to be bound by your thoughts, by your perceptions of something that somebody has done to you. We don't want to get into the conversation today and right now about, race and all of that. It's happening. It's real. We're not talking about forgiveness of that, because unfortunately that's still happening, and it's really hard to forgive somebody in the moment when they're still doing something, right? And that's something that's been going on for hundreds of years. So we're still working on that forgiveness, but we really want to talk to you today about just individually, spiritually, in your home, who you are as an individual, maybe a group, maybe your family. If somebody in the family you need to forgive, an ex, a friend, an ex-friend, a colleague at work, whatever it is important that we understand the power in that process of forgiveness. Forgiveness is not, it's good for the other person, but it's more for you, the individual. When you have the ability and the power to forgive, it allows you to be liberated. It allows you to be free. It sets you free so that you're not bound by that thought, that hate, that anger, that animosity, whatever it is that you feel for the person that did you wrong.
And it actually physically moves energy out of your body. Some people die of old age, and as one of my spiritual mentors says, some people die of old rage. And blocked energy that they don't let loose.
Wow.
And so what happens is that sets up in your body and manifests in all forms of illness and sickness. So it is incumbent upon us to move energy through us and figure out what's the process of forgiveness that's realistic and that works for us. And I mean, where you need to start is, do you even have the desire? Do you even have the desire on any given situation to want to forgive? The first thing I would say is it takes going within yourself and asking the universe, spirit, God, whatever higher calling you deal with, to show you if there's an area where you need to release, if there's an area where you're still holding on. Because the mind is tricky. You'll think you're moved on until you see that person that wronged you, or you're triggered by a similar situation, and then you realize, I still have work to do. And that's fine, but it's better to be conscious and stay awoke.
And you could have a situation where somebody really angers you, kind of like what you said there, and they upset you about something and you're holding on to it. And let's say you move away from that person, or you're not working with them no more. You're just not in their space. You don't even see them. But you meet somebody else that does the same thing or acts in the same way, in the same manner. It will trigger that rage, that anger all over again if you haven't entered the process of forgiveness. And sometimes it's hard. I know we talk about it. We talk about it in church. We talk about it at home. We talk about it in life. We talk about forgive. It's important for you to forgive. But man, sometimes people do things to you and against you. Maybe they just lied for whatever reason and just spoke ill will against you, and they don't even know you, don't know anything about you. It's difficult. It is extremely difficult to say, I forgive that person. But what I want you to know, and what we want you to know, that it's important because, as B said, it frees up some energy that you could use for other positive things in other areas and other places and towards other things. You're wasting that energy, and every time you see that person, you just like, and I was taught, words are so powerful that you don't want to give anyone that kind of power over your life and over your mind and over your energy and over that space. So if you say, oh, I can't stand her or I can't stand him, they make me sick. Every time you see them, be prepared for you might even show some physical symptoms of sickness because you've given them that energy and that kind of power. And you don't want to give that kind of energy and power away to everybody because everybody doesn't deserve that space, first of all. They're not worthy of that. They most certainly aren't worthy of that energy. So you really have to be careful just holding on to things against people. And it's important that those people take responsibility for their actions. Most definitely. It's really, really important that they take responsibility for it. But I got news for you. Breaking news right here, right now. There are going to be some people that aren't going to say, I'm sorry. So then what are you going to do? There are going to be some people that lie and do wrong and do negative things towards you or against you or somebody that you love and in your family. And they are going to walk away like nothing ever happened. My challenge to you then is, what are you going to do? How are you going to respond to somebody? Are you going to hold on to it or can you just let it go?
Because holding on to it means they get you twice. They get you twice in the transgression. And then they get you twice because you're bound and you're holding on to the act, and it's hurting you over and over and over again. And they've moved on. They're doing it. It could be in foolish blindness. It could be in spiritual unconsciousness, but they've moved on and you're left holding the bag of the transgression. So It hurt you in the first instance and it continues to hurt you. Only you have control over how far you're going to let that go. And one of the things I would say is, first, you have to acknowledge it, because some of us, we all model how to deal with issues based on what we grew up seeing. If you grew up in a house where people talk through issues, you will want to talk about it. Right. And then it goes back to like, is that person going to talk to you or not? If you grew up in a house where people blew up, you're going to want to blow up.
Right.
If you grew up in a house where they sweep it under the rug, then that's what you'll do. So first you need to be honest with what is your default way of dealing with issues. Then from there, you need to figure out, is this healthy? Is it working for me? Right. Am I really releasing or dealing with things? Or am I coping and failing to address it?
And a lot of times what's really happening is we're just coping. We kind of like put it on the shelf over to the side because it's not directly in our face at that moment. And you think, yeah, I gotten over it. And then soon as you see that person or a situation that's similar to that, then it rises up in you again. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. I thought I forgave this person or this situation. I thought I was past. I thought I was over this, but I'm not. I'm still holding on to it. In fact, I'm pissed off even more now because somebody else has come along in that same negative energy and spirit and done the same thing. I've allowed myself to be duped again 2 times or 3 times. And now you're sitting there, as wifey said, holding the bag of anger, and they're gone. They're gone, long gone, not worried, don't care. They're doing it to somebody else in some other place, in some other state, and you're still holding on to it. That's why it's so important that we learn how to forgive. Forgiveness for us is the key, man. It's the key. There are a lot of other things. Yes, we have to love, and you want to have faith, and you want to have balance and all those things. But I think so many of us are tied up on things that have happened in our past negatively that it almost becomes as a roadblock, a mountain, or just something that holds us back from getting over, from allowing us to overcome. allowing us to be better, allowing us to do better, allowing us to think, allowing us to perceive even better. Because we'll see things and just automatically assume. We'll automatically, we'll make these assumptions and we'll label people and label situations based on the negative things that have happened in our past if we don't allow ourselves to forgive and get over them.
So what's an example of how do you deal with it? Like if people say, okay, I know I should forgive. I know I need to forgive, but how? How do I forgive? So is there an example you could give of where you start?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to internalize, look in, and see what's going on. I think one of the great things for us is to learn our triggers. So, where it originally started. What are our triggers? Because guess what? We will hold on to things that we really care about. So what is this situation? Why is it that this situation is bothering me so much? Is it the person? Is it the act? Does this continuously happen to me? I think those are some of the questions you need to ask yourself. Why is this bothering me so much? Because a random stranger off the street could do or say the same thing, and it may not bother you at all. A lot of times it's because we have expectations.
So you're saying first take inventory of what am I feeling and why?
What am I feeling and why am I feeling that? And it's really important for you to go back. For every tree, for every flower, for every rose, there's a root. And it's really important for you to go back to that root. The root. What was the seed that caused that to be planted in the first place? And sometimes it has nothing to do with them. It's something that happened in your past. Maybe it's some transgressions that you've done. And so now somebody's doing it to you and you're like, oh, I don't like it. Whatever. Maybe it was the way you were nurtured. Maybe the way you were raised. Maybe you modeled, as you said before, you modeled your mother and father or grandparents or aunts and uncles, somebody in the family that just said, I don't play like that. I don't do that. I don't like that. So now when that happens to you, you're immediately like, nope, I can't forgive. This is unacceptable. I'll forgive everything else but that one thing. Why is that? We need to go back to the root and really address where it all started. And then start there. It's always good to start from the beginning. If you can go back, if you can find it, if you can remember it, if you're brave enough, courageous enough to really.
What's the first time I felt this way?
Or what is the first time I really felt this way?
Is it really about this situation or is it bringing up something else?
And that's what you want to know first, right? What is this? What's the source? What's the source of this? Why I can't forgive in this situation? And guess what, guys? A lot of times, and this is checking in at home. A lot of times, we're not able to forgive because we couldn't control the situation. We couldn't control the circumstances or the outcome. So now I can't forgive. And it has nothing to do with that person. It's all ego. It's all self because I can't control what's going on with somebody else.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And a lot of times we say, but I love that person and I care about that person. But a lot of times we only feel that way when we're able to control the narrative. What happens when you're not able to control the narrative? What happens when they rise up one day and say, I'm going to do what I want to do and how I do it and when I want to do it? And you're sitting there looking just mad and angry because you've lost control, at least in your mind, of the situation, right? But we all have to let people be who they are.
Or self-control. Okay, so I mean, there's something kind of controversial you always talk about is can you forgive yourself? But I do, and I know where you're gonna go there. I'm gonna let you drop your own bomb there. But what I will say is sometimes we can't get over our own actions. We hold our own self hostage in regret and in I wish I would have
or wouldn't have. Right. Yeah.
Right. And then you can't move forward because you're looking back. You're stuck looking back.
Right.
You're stuck looking back. And what you really have to do is figure out, I think if we could ask ourselves one question every time something that we believe is unforgivable happens to us and switch to the question of what is it that this is here to teach me? What can I learn? My mantra is turn your pain to your purpose. So what is this here to do to make me better? When I started looking back at some of my past hurts from platonic and love relationships, I actually got to a point one day where I thanked them for the things that I one day was so hurt by, because it made me better. Sometimes it was the gift of goodbye. Everybody that left wasn't supposed to be there. Sometimes it was a gift wrapped in sandpaper where it was just like, all right, it really hurt me then, but it taught me something that I never had to learn anymore.
Okay.
Like it taught me a valuable lesson. So when I started to switch, so what I'm giving you now is one of the ways that I get to forgiveness. I started to learn what is it that this is here to teach me, and then I also look at where was my actions that allowed this. What am I accountable for?
Well,
because there's usually some accountability there. I can give you certain examples.
Hard. Yeah.
But what was it that got me to this in the first place? Was there a quiet whisper from what I like to call the God of Israel, or my father, my spiritual guide, that I didn't listen to? What did I push past and go into? What signs, what person said something to me that irritated me and I kept going anyway? Like a parent figure or a friend who told you truth that you didn't want to hear. And you're like, I'm doing it anyway.
So there was a stop sign there and you ran it. Now you mad because you in an accident.
Right.
And it was your fault. Now you mad.
And I'm mad at the driver in the
other car. But you ran the stop sign.
I'm mad at the person who made me mad, because I'm like, if they wouldn't have made me mad, I would have stopped.
Right.
And and why wasn't that car looking? And then all along, it's me still that has some accountability.
And we have to take more accountability for our own actions. And a lot of people, that's tough, man. That's a difficult thing for us to do, to take accountability for our own actions, because I got to hold the mirror up to myself now. I got to hold the light on myself, and I got to be able to tell where I went wrong. The enemy got in my camp, and I allowed him. So now I'm angry at everybody else, but really it's my fault because I allowed the enemy in. And I heard my uncle say something the other day that was really powerful. My Uncle Joe, he said, we brought temporary friends in and made them permanent. And they are really supposed to be temporary or for a season.
I'm guilty of that. Guilty of that. I've done it.
Yeah.
I like to hold on to things.
So, and we'll do that with a lot of things. We'll hold on to stuff that's only supposed to be for a season, only temporary, and we holding on to it and grasping. And I just want to be, I want to be loyal to the hood. I want to be loyal to my friends. I want to be loyal to family because it's blood, and blood. It says all of this, but the situation is saying they're only there for a season, but you're still holding on to it. You've made them permanent when they really were supposed to only be passing by for a little while. They were supposed to be They were supposed to be stopping at an Airbnb, and you done moved them in. you done gave them keys to the mailbox and everything.
And usually that's a pattern.
That's a pattern.
Usually there's a pattern to your hurt. Usually there's a pattern to the people you can't forget.
No doubt.
And I found that to be the case with me. And when you talked about going back to the root, so yes, there were relationships that were abusive, verbally and physically. There were philandering and cheating. There were all these misgivings that I had to deal with. But when I went back to the very root, I was like, why am I dating the same spirit over and over again? And so the pattern would continue until I figured out what was going on in me that was attracting these spirits to me so that I could clean this house.
Right.
And then it up-leveled everything else.
Right.
It up-leveled.
And so then the next time you like, no, I'm not falling for the okie doke.
It wasn't attractive to me. That stuff didn't even come and approach me.
Okay.
It like the whole scene up-leveled.
Right.
And same thing with, dealing with situations, maybe even within my family or people that they have a different walk than you, and you don't understand. You're like, why aren't they calling me back, or why aren't they doing this? And you like, when you take a step back and get to learn people's story, don't just think about them as so and so to you, but you go back in their life and find out what they had to overcome and what they're dealing with, then you start getting out of you, and you start realizing this is about them. It has nothing to do with you. Then you can let it go and get out of your feelings and realize that's their walk. Let me love them where they are, but let me go on and do me. Like, I can't hold them close if they don't want to be close. I gotta love them where they're at.
No doubt. And Mama Althea said it's not always easy to ask for forgiveness. So true, because your pride, your pride and ego get in the way, and you just like, no, I'm not. No, I know I'm wrong. I know I done wrong. I know I done something I wasn't supposed to do. Nobody else needs to hold the cards up to me. I know it deep down in my heart, but I'm just going to be stubborn. I'm not going to ask for forgiveness. So sometimes people make asking for forgiveness difficult too. You know, whatever it is, whatever the situation or the circumstances are, forgiveness is very difficult to ask for, and sometimes it's difficult to offer. But it's important. It's important for your success, for your ability to up level, for your ability to go and move on and really have peace in your heart and in your life. You must forgive.
So are you okay? So we're kind of talking about a lot of things here. So one is just first getting to a point in yourself where you're able to say, I'm ready to move past what I'm feeling.
So,
but then you just talked about also when you're the transgressor, going to the other person, asking for forgiveness. So I think it's important to highlight there, though, that person they owe you nothing to say, I forgive you. They owe you nothing to accept it. So you have to go with no expectations. But
that's a great point.
You've extended it.
That's a great point.
Released the energy. Now, if it sit on the table or if they pick it up, that's on them. But you have released it. So don't go back and get it. Leave it there.
Well, the Alvin, he often teaches us that the greatest control you can have in life is self-control. So I can't control what other people say or do. The only thing I can do is control what I'm saying or I'm doing or how I'm feeling. So once I go and ask for that forgiveness, then if they give it to me or not, I'm going to leave it that, because I've done it, and I've done it sincerely, and I've done it with the greatest intentions in the world, that I'm sorry that I really didn't know and understand what I done, or maybe I did know, but I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Now it's on them. I don't have to stand around and wait for the forgiveness. It'd be nice if they give it to me in there in that moment, but if they don't, I've done my job. Now I can move on in life.
Now, how does this play out in a relationship, though? So a lot of times you got two people together and something has come up. Now one party has to hopefully, own up to what they did, ask for forgiveness. And if you are really, truly trying to move forward, at some point you're going to have to let it go. Otherwise you'll stay still. I think it's really important to stop here and address that the party that asks for forgiveness can't go back, and they need to repent, meaning they got to change their ways.
That's right.
You can't think you're going to ask for forgiveness and keep doing something,
doing the same
over
thing
and over again,
no doubt,
and think that this person that's dealing with you is going to want to stay in that situation.
Well, I think it's twofold, right? So you can't just pretend, okay, I asked for forgiveness and just move on like it didn't happen. Like that hurt isn't still going to be there. It's still going to be there. And you may even have to address it a couple of more times. You may need to really, get some understanding of what you were thinking, or, whatever that person that you hurt is processing. But I also would say the person, once I come to you for that forgiveness and I'm sincere, you shouldn't use that to beat me upside my head every time something happens or goes wrong. I ask, if you're going to forgive, now if you're not, you need to be honest about that, right? You need to be honest and say, I'm not ready.
I need time.
And then we can try to deal with it as best as possible, right?
And there a conversation ensues about, well, then where do we go from here? What does this look like?
Right.
Like, you really got to talk through it, because it's like, well, then what are the new rules of engagement under unforgiveness?
No doubt. And I think it's important that we really address what goes on and don't allow anything to just slide or go by, because tomorrow is not promised. In this world that we live in right now, the next minute is not promised. You can say you're going to the grocery store for something and you may not make it back. That's why it's so important, because you don't want to be you don't want to be left holding that bag and saying, looking over somebody, God forbid, looking over someone's casket saying,
wow,
I didn't ask for forgiveness. You know what I mean? Or I should have forgiven them, or whatever it is that you're going through. That's very, very important. You know, we don't want you looking at the world thinking bad. Well, this person's going to die, so I need to ask. But I think it's always important to think of all of these things. I may not get another chance with them, so I want to make this right if I can, if I have the desire to. Now, if I don't have the desire to, then I think you need to be honest with that and say, I'm not in the space to do this right now. I can't have this conversation. But understand that if you hold on to it, you run the risk of it holding you hostage.
Okay, so let's say somebody's dead and gone. You never got to ask for forgiveness. What do you do in that situation? I have something I do, but I'm curious of what you do.
Well, for me, I mean, because I believe in God, I go to God then, and I try to rectify it there. And then my biggest thing is try not to make that same mistake again. You know, once they're gone, try not to do that same thing because I didn't get the opportunity. And then now I'm going on with other things in life, and I'm saying I'm not going to allow that to happen. If I do something wrong and I know that I'm going to consciously, intentionally make the effort to get to that person to say, hey man, or hey sis, I'm sorry, I apologize. You know, if they let me know. Sometimes you're going through life and you've done something wrong to somebody and you don't even know. And that's a bad place to be in because they're angry with you and you didn't even know you've done anything wrong.
Right,
so you're sitting back. So I think that's why it's so important that we're honest with people. Hey, you did this. I didn't appreciate it. That really hurt my feelings. That really rubbed me the wrong way. And then now we're going to enter into some dialogue and address, because they may say, "Oh man, I apologize. I didn't even know." You got to be on your adult thing doing that, definitely.
And for me, if the person is dead and gone, or if they're in a place where you don't know where they are, you don't speak to them, I wrote a letter of release, which is similar to what you said, taking it to God. I've wrote a letter of release, just basically writing out my apology.
Okay.
And then, I can fold that up and put it somewhere, or there's a practice of burning it and just releasing it into the atmosphere. And then I usually do follow it up with, you know what? Take this away from me. Take this off of me. I don't want to carry this anymore. You know, a prayer of release, as I'm also dealing with the actual act of getting it out of me. You know, writing it all down. If this person was here, this is what I would have said to them.
Which brings me to, to the end of this, says that, forgiveness is a process. It is a process. Forgiveness is a process. And I often say, and a lot of people don't agree with me when I say this, but I'll say it again, that it's a process and it takes work, and you have to be intentional, and you have to want to get past and move on, or, get past your pride and your ego to ask for forgiveness. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. And things aren't always forgiven. Sometimes you get lucky and they are. Somebody can forgive you in that moment. All they wanted to hear you say was, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? That's all they wanted to hear you say.
Acknowledge it. Yeah.
Just acknowledge what you've done. And so some people are like, cool. And they move on, and you're still holding on to it, and you're calling them again. Hey, are you sure? Are you sure? And they're like, hey, I let it go. The moment I told you I forgave you, I'm good. I've moved on. And so it's great, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes people hold on to it. So you have to be diligent in your actions and things that you do in your interaction with people, and just be honest and just be who you are. If you're nothing else, just be who you are. And some people are going to like it, some are not. As I often say, the ones that don't like it, those aren't your people in the first place. So you ain't got to worry about it.
Yeah.
So
we walked through a lot.
We went through a lot. Yeah, the power of forgiveness. Share our video. Follow us at TheCoreofU, COREOF, the letter U, CoreofU, on Instagram, on Facebook. We also have a YouTube page. We'll try to get to you most Friday nights around this same time. We want to have another live and interactive Zoom really soon. So we'll be sending the information out about that. Just talking about different things in life, trying to get you away from some of the madness, and just check in. It's time for us to check in. During this quarantine time, you should have had a lot of time to really check in. And some of you are on right now live and know that there's somebody else that you need to forgive.
Yeah.
Do it right now. Or maybe you need to go ask for forgiveness. Do it right
Don't
now.
hold on to that.
Don't hold on to it. Tomorrow is not promised. It's important that you forgive or ask for forgiveness right now. Don't let another minute, another second, another hour, another day pass without forgiving or asking for forgiveness.
All right.
We enjoyed y'all today. We hope you enjoyed the message from the core of you. Follow us, and we'll holler at y'all soon. Peace.